In this episode, we use a green screen and we have lights. Welcome to RCLJ's episode 23, and we've gone up market. This is a green screen, but you can't see it. That is a green screen.
There are two lights there as well.
We have lights.
And, yeah. And we're having to sit close together on the sofa because...
The framing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Monday love. So now we're taking things to another level.
Not in that way.
No.
And we're sitting close together on the sofa.
I love the people on the podcast actually just listening to us thinking, I need to see this. Because again, you're hearing it.
I know.
You want to see it.
You want to see it.
So carry on hearing it though. Stay on iTunes.
If you are on the podcast, head over to YouTube, head over to Facebook. You'll see it there.
You can see our new upmarket production.
Get a box of tissues at the ready, because...
Oh, Lance.
Yeah, buddy. So...
Edit that image.
No, leave it in. So, today's question is from our SBS Academy student, Jared, who has asked us... I'm going to have to hold it up. Can you see it with the lights? The lights are so beautiful that they're
Get in, Lawrence. Get off the sofa, man.
blowing everything out. So he has asked us how we classify lifters as beginner, intermediate and advanced. You got that all there, Mitch? You got it there? Sweet. We will probably also put it up there, just so you can...
on the green screen.
On the green screen. Basically,
that we now have.
We're excited about the green screen, and we're just going to mess around with it a bit.
And we've got lights.
So we're really excited. So, Luke, how do you classify a trainee as beginner, intermediate, advanced when it comes to exercise?
Again, it's getting that information from that person, as in regards to, so how many years have you been lifting? I've just started, beginner. If it's, I've been lifting for a couple of years, probably intermediate, but not necessarily. Mm-hmm. Or I've been lifting for 10 years. Another factor to take into account, again, if you can actually physically see them, you can probably gauge whether they lift the weights, rep the reds, or they just say they lift and they don't actually lift.
Yeah.
Other things to think about as well is actually asking them questions. If it's on an online capacity, then maybe getting photos. Absolutely. Again, sort of like before photos to gauge that, because someone's saying they've lifted for 10 years. And what I also, the follow-up question is how many years have you been lifting? And let's say they say 6 years. And I say, how many years have you been lifting properly? Mm-hmm. Because most of us, when we start out, probably gone down that route of smash one body part at a time, annihilate it, and only hitting it once a week. So there's many factors to take into account. So I always like saying, how many years have you been lifting properly? So again, you have to gauge that information from there. It's hard to say, as you said, and then another thing to think about, which I thought about when I was walking into the HQ, not office, because we don't have an office, we have a HQ, is body parts as well. I know for myself that my upper body is more developed than my lower body, purely because when I started training, I didn't do many squats. When I was training at the college, we didn't have a squat rack. So it's hard to actually get a substantial amount of weight squatting when you literally have to overhead press it
onto your neck
and then lift the weight. So many factors. Asking the questions, how long you've been lifting for is your first thing, first and foremost. How many years have you been lifting properly? Looking at their actual physique, engaging from that. And again, it's very much, we can't give you a black and white as in zero. If you wanted black and white, you'd probably say 0 to 1 year beginner, maybe less, 0 to 6 months.
Yeah, it depends on how consistently you're training.
Yeah, and then probably say 1 to maybe 3 years as an intermediate, and then 3+ years properly, like advanced. Like nothing in fitness or in the world or in science or whatever should be black and white. So there ain't like a checkbox and say, okay, you've been training for 3 years, that means you're an intermediate, because we've got to take other things into account. What type of training have you been doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say, Jada?
So I gave an answer. This was asked in our academy group, and the reason I was flicking through my phone earlier was I was trying to find the actual answer that I gave, because it was really insightful and awesome.
But it weren't that awesome because you can't remember it. So yes,
here we go. Right, I found it. So basically, I think that it can be useful to think of people as beginners, intermediates, advanced, and that's the point of view that Luke was coming from. But I think that we can also go too far down the rabbit hole of trying to pigeonhole our clients into one of these three categories, basically. And I think that can sometimes kind of detract from your ability to properly deal with the person that's in front of you if you're constantly trying to stick to rules or guidelines or anything else that are given within the context of a lifter being beginner, intermediate, advanced. So ultimately, what I said is that we use these classifications basically to try and help people with program design. That's the main reason we do this. And it's a lot of the time it's to do with a rate of progress thing rather than anything else. Beginners will progress the most quickly, and your more advanced lifters will progress less quickly. But I think that a more appropriate way of approaching this is generally to just look at strength levels and then progress over time. So the heavier someone lifts, like the stronger someone is, basically the slower they're going to make progress, really, because unless they are a hyper responder to exercise, and they're just going to progress at a relatively very quick rate, no matter where they are. And conversely, the weaker someone is, the more you can, the quicker you can generally make progress, I think. Although, that said, it may appear to the outsider that a more advanced lifter is progressing quite quickly, but that's due to increments in weight and kind of how they correspond to percentages of what that lifter can weightlifter can lift as a 1 rep max. So let's take an example of kind of a beginner female lifter doing something like an overhead pressing variation. If she's repping the 10 kilo dumbbells maybe, and you say, right, let's move up to the 12 kilo dumbbells, that's a 20% increase in what she can lift already. Like, that's a massive increase. Whereas if you take someone who can squat 500 pounds and you go and add 20% onto that, that's 600 pounds. Whereas going from 500 pounds to 510 pounds, that's a much, much smaller increment compared to what they could lift previously.
So look at percentage-wise rather than actual numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something to take into account with their program design, and that's the same across, like, for one lifter that may happen across different lifts. Like, someone's squat may be especially strong and their overhead press may be especially weak. But I think another way of looking at it as well is also like an attitude or a mindset thing towards your training. Because someone, and this is like Alberto Nunez picked up on this on his Snapchat. If you don't follow him on Snapchat, go give him a follow. Is it Nunez 3DMJ?
Probably.
Let me have a look quickly. But what he said was, Nunez 3DMJ. Just the same as his Instagram, so go give him a follow.
Consistency.
Good
marketing.
Yeah.
Well done.
Absolutely. He talked about the importance of seeing, like, when assessing how your training has gone, not seeing it as, I had a really bad session today. Analysing it in terms of how a block of training has gone relative to how you expected it to go, because we're always going to get crappy days, off days, really good days, but it's looking at it over a longer period of time. How did my training go relative to what I thought it was, or how I thought it was going to go, and having that mindset towards your training of looking at it over the longer period rather than the very acute reactive state of mind that a lot of people still remain in, even if they've been lifting weights for a very, very long period of time. So I still know people who have been lifting for ages and ages and ages who will still spend longer in the gym because they ate a bit more yesterday. Or they will gauge their training off how one particular session felt, or even like how one particular week felt. And yeah, we all have weeks that are going to be less productive than others, are going to be more productive than others, but how does that average out over time? Like, we know that a physique isn't built in a year, in a week, in a day. Physiques are built over years and years and years of training. So how productive is your training, and how productive is your attitude towards your training as well? I think that's a really big part of your, how I would classify someone as a beginner, an intermediate lifter, or an advanced lifter. So a beginner lifter still focuses very much on the here and now. An intermediate is beginning to learn how to think more in longer periods of time, but still occasionally slips into old habits and old ways of thinking. A more advanced lifter may have the very occasional kind of relapse into, oh, that was a really terrible session, I'm going to feel really bad as a result of it, but generally speaking looks at their training from a much more objective standpoint and is able to train a lot more productively as a result of that. So those are my...
Another way you could classify it is you're an ectomorph, you're a beginner, you're a mesomorph, you're an advanced, endomorph, intermediate.
You don't even lift.
You don't even lift.
No.
You just
got
the bulk.
Oh.
Yeah, but again, it's just to finish up, rather than beginner, intermediate, advanced, gather as much information as possible as a personal trainer based on that person. And what we do is we actually say, what is your current training plan? And actually sit down with them, and then you can sort of calculate volume, volume thresholds. Are they, because someone may have only been lifting for a year or two, but they may have been training 6 times a week, or someone may have only been training, or say the same time period, but only training twice a week. So looking at what they've done previously, like you would with nutrition, where have you currently been, taking all of these, there's so many just multiple factors you need to take into account. So rather than classing someone really as a beginner, intermediate, advanced, just look at that person as a person, and then as long as said, adjust your programming based on where you feel they currently are in regards to percentage of, or like their 1 RMs or 2 RMs or 3 RMs or whatever it is, and then their current volume, and then take that into account if you've taken on that new client based on, well, they're already used to this much volume and they already hit that, and then programming accordingly from there.
Sweet.
Done. Hope you enjoyed that. Speak to you soon.